Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Dietitian Says What podcast. My name is Stephanie Gomez, and I'm a registered dietitian in Southern California. Today, we are going to talk about some non-food factors. We're going to start there anyhow. Now, one thing that's really important to our ability to lose weight, to maintain a healthy weight, and to fight off diseases is our ability to sleep, and that leads into stress management as well. So we'll kind of hit all these topics at once. We're going to start out with the circadian rhythm, which is our body's natural 24-hour clock, because synchronizing with that clock will make a huge difference in all those areas that we've talked about: weight loss, the ability to fight off diseases, the ability to manage our stress. All these pieces kind of fall together. So the circadian rhythm is our body's natural 24-hour clock. There's this 24-hour clock within all of our cells, and because we're humans and we tend to sleep at night and be awake during the day, a lot of things are released in connection with that circadian rhythm. So we're actually going to start there. One thing that makes the circadian rhythm and aligning with it, synchronizing with it, really important is the fact that there are certain hormones that are released based on the circadian rhythm that we naturally follow. Now, at night, our body is naturally going to release melatonin. Now, you've probably heard of melatonin as a supplement. So the largest source of melatonin that we get is created by our body, and it's released in the awareness that we are going to sleep. And there's one food source that is a really good way to get some extra melatonin, and that's pistachios. So if you're going to eat a pistachios within maybe a couple of hours of going to sleep, that might actually help you. But other than that, we'll talk about factors, lifestyle factors that are going to help you to have increased melatonin production within your own body. The melatonin is naturally released at night. Another hormone that's naturally released at night is leptin, and that's one of our hunger hormones. So hunger and satiety, there's a couple hormones that are released in pairs in a sense. So leptin is the appetite suppressant, and then ghrelin is the hormone that helps us to know when we're hungry. Now, leptin is released at night. So you would imagine this would be really important for weight loss, because if we are getting enough leptin released into our bloodstream, then we are naturally going to have that appetite suppressant factor, right? We won't be as hungry. We'll probably have less cravings. Second important reason to line up with that circadian rhythm. A couple of hormones that are released during the daytime. One of them is cortisol. So cortisol you've probably heard of as the stress hormone, and that's true. Whenever we are confronted with any sort of a stressor, the body's going to release cortisol into the bloodstream. And the highest natural release of cortisol is first thing in the morning. So basically, we are ready for the day, ready for anything that comes at us. Now, one thing that I want to mention about cortisol, because it is the stress hormone, is that if we see our stressors or our problems as challenges where that cortisol comes and it goes because we're managing our stress or we're exercising or we are facing each individual stressor as just a challenge that we're working through, then that's not necessarily a unhealthy way to deal with stress in our life. However, if we have a constant barrage of cortisol that just stays, the thing is, cortisol is going to cause an increase of body fat right around the midline. And that's because naturally we need to be protected and protect all of our organs. So if we are constantly under high stress and we are not dealing with that stress, or we are just constantly feeling like life is terrible and there's nothing that we can do about it, you're much more likely to have extra belly fat because that cortisol is being released. Now, I've had patients who have been doing, over exercising and who have been eating less calories than what they needed, and they're still unable to lose belly fat because the real issue was stress. So I would really encourage you to manage your stress. As a caveat, I do have some resources on my website, beginagainnutrition.com. And if you were to go there, not only do I have a sleep handout, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but I've also got some resources for meditation, some guided meditations. I've also got some how to do journaling, as well as some journaling prompts and some adult coloring pages. So those are all ways to possibly handle your stress. Now, one other hormone that I want to talk about that is related to your sleep cycle is insulin. Now, insulin is released in the presence of food. So when you eat food, specifically anything with any sort of carbohydrate in it, your body is going to turn to glucose, and your body is going to release the hormone insulin. Now, insulin is really important because it's going to let that glucose out of your bloodstream and into the cell to be used for energy. Now, if we are not sleeping well, our body is going to be less sensitive to insulin. And that's a problem, right? Because then we end up with extra glucose in our bloodstream. It can't get into the cell to be used for energy. And unfortunately, it's going to be stored. Now, some of it will get stored as glycogen, which we can use later for energy. And then the rest will get stored as body fat, stored energy. So I would definitely encourage you to try and sync up with the circadian rhythm so that we can at least get our hormones right. Now, how can we do that? How can we line up? Now, one major signal with the circadian rhythm, it's kind of guided by light, blue light, and the largest source of blue light is the sun. Not only is the sun blue light, but also our phones, our computers, our tablets, our TVs, all of those are sources of blue light. So if we're going to try and sync up with that circadian rhythm, it'd be really important to increase our exposure to daylight during the day, like get 30 minutes of sunlight. That would really help promote wakefulness during the day so that you're able to sleep better during the night. And then another thing would be to avoid the blue light at night. So I'm going to take you back to the handouts on the website, beginagainnutrition.com, because instead of grabbing your phone and exposing yourself to the light that's going to promote wakefulness, I would say maybe do a little bit of adult coloring, or maybe journal for 10 minutes or meditate for 5 minutes, whatever it may be, something that you're doing that is not necessarily going to cause you to have your eyes on a screen, because that's going to impede your ability to have a really nice, restful night of sleep. Now, other factors are food, right? So if we can not eat for the last 2 hours before bedtime, that kind of prepares our digestive system for rest. If you wanted to take it one step further, you could go as far as doing some intermittent fasting. So maybe eating in an 8-hour window or a 10-hour window during the day, and then fasting for the other portion of the 24 hours, whatever you decided upon. One really common thing is a 16-8. So some people will have their feeding window be 8 hours, maybe from 10 to 6. And then their fasting window will be the other 16 hours for all those hours outside of that feeding window. That tends to help people with their sleep schedule, because if we are eating on a schedule and the digestive system is able to rest at night, that's going to promote that more restful sleep because the body's not trying to do something else. Other things that we can do is, whether we decide to do some journaling, some coloring, some meditation, we can also listen to music at night instead of watching a screen. That would be a really useful activity, help relax us. Another thing that you could do is take your bath or your shower at night, because that's naturally going to relax your body. Other things that we can do to align with our circadian rhythm is just to pay attention to our nourishment. So increasing our amount of antioxidants to kind of decrease inflammation in the body is going to be useful. Some ways to get antioxidants would be using herbs and spices, and even tea is a nice way. We can also increase our antioxidants by eating a larger portion of fruits and vegetables. So that's going to do a couple things. One, it'll increase your antioxidants to reduce inflammation in the body. It's also going to give you an increase in dietary fiber. Now, if you are counting your grams of fiber, really trying to line up and making sure that you're getting enough fiber, you're going to want to have around 30 grams per day. But if you're eating a good portion of fruits and vegetables throughout the day, some nuts and seeds, some whole grains, some beans, those foods are naturally going to be pretty high in fiber. And the fiber is really important for the health of the gut. Lastly, I would say, if you're not sure about your sleep schedule and what might be affecting it, again, on the website, beginagainnutrition.com, I've got a sleep diary or a sleep handout that you could use to try and track what's going on at night and what's going on during the day. It has got a 7-day breakdown to where you can log some pieces and try and figure out what's going on with your sleep. Ultimately, the goal would be to get roughly 7 to 8 hours per night. And if you feel like you need a nap during the day, the recommendation for a nap would be anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes for a solid nap that's not necessarily going to affect your ability to sleep at night, so long as that nap doesn't fall too close to bedtime. So the ideal time for a nap might be around 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon at the latest, and then you would have a nice restful night of sleep. If you've got some questions about sleep or lifestyle habits or more ways to align with your circadian rhythm, you can always reach out to me on beginagainnutrition.com, and you can leave a comment here as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time for episode 3.